Earth to Rick the Dawn. We need you.
Yo, what's going on? It's your main man, Rick the Dawn, and I just got a hair transplant. Ha! Yeah, and I'm gonna make this video, and I had to go through a lot of mental exercise to figure out whether or not I wanted to expose my personal life. But I felt like, you know what, this could help somebody else make the decision to do it or not to do it. And I'm all about helping people. All right, that's what my Lord and Savior did. He helped people. That's what I want to do. So in this video, I'll be giving you everything I know so that you can figure out whether or not you want to do it yourself or not. Here we go. So what made me get the hair transplant? Well, there's this thing called male pattern baldness, and it is something that young men never even think about. Yeah, I was one of those people and didn't even think about it. And then all of a sudden, somewhere around age 32, 33, you start hearing little jokes that you never heard before. And it's people who are behind you or looking at something that you can't see. And they realize that they bring to your attention that you are starting to bald. And you're like, wait a minute, what? And, you know, my situation was terrible because my balding was happening behind me. So, you know, I want to thank God for that, because on one hand, it was allowing me to continue to make my videos. You can go watch any of my videos. You won't see any balding necessarily, and not the bad balding, but you might see some stuff up top, but the bad balding, I'm talking about Michael Jordan balding, was happening behind me. And I'm so confident I was able to keep going on with life and allowing people to make the little jokes, because it didn't make a difference to me. I look at it like this: hey, you're looking at me, thank you, give me more attention. I'm not even looking at you. You're looking at my hair and you're looking at it in intimate detail, thank you. But deep inside, I think it was something that I wanted to address, because I am someone who does want to come across as completely balanced. Perfect, if you want to use that word. I don't mind. So, after about 5 or 6 years, I made the decision to start doing some investigation and figure out whether or not I wanted to make this investment, because that's what it is. And everybody seems to go to Turkey when they want to get these kind of procedures. And for me, I just said I didn't want to do that. I did the numbers, I crunched the data. To go to Turkey from where I am in Detroit, it would have cost me between $5,000 and $6,000. And I said, you know what? That's not terrible, but is there a better option stateside? Now, the reason that kind of procedure costs as much as it does, which is actually cheap to some people, the reason it might cost between $5,000 and $6,000 is because the surgeons can afford to pay their assistances, the two people that's going to really be doing the procedure, a lot less than they charge them here stateside. So a $6,000 procedure in Turkey is more like $10,000 here, maybe even $20,000. That's because America has different standards as it relates to paying the assistants. Is it assistants or assistances? There's usually two of them. Nevertheless, those two people, usually women, will be doing the actual procedure, whereas the doctor is going to probably do the anesthetics. He's going to probably numb your skull, and he's going to oversee the work. You usually have to pay him, and he pays them. Stateside, you pay him $10,000 to $20,000. He pays them whatever he pays them. And in Turkey, they can get away with paying a little less. So that is one of the bigger reasons why a lot of people go to Turkey, because you get more for your dollar. Now, in my situation, I got completely blessed, because I'm not paying $20,000. I'm not paying $10,000. I paid $4,500, and that is thanks to good old Google and Google's new wife, ChatGPT. Now, using those two resources allowed me to find and weed through all the bull crap and figure out how much it would cost for me to go to Turkey, and also if there was anyone in my surrounding area that was certified and had a great track record that was doing it stateside. And I found someone who did it for $4,500. Just happened yesterday. And wow. Now, when we talk about hair loss, what's the main contributing factor? It is DHT. DHT is the reason that you or anybody you know might be losing hair. This goes for both for men, but it could also go for women. I'm not sure, so I'm not prepared to say it does. But I do know this: for men, it is DHT. For the most part, it's this inflammation that basically chokes your hair out and stops it from growing. And the reason I really want to do this video is because I'm tired of all these ads playing games with us, right? They found the one thing that we're sensitive about, and they're lying to us for their gain. All right. How many commercials or ads have you seen where they say, oh, if you use this cream, if you use this serum, if you use this, if you use that, then your hair will grow back? And they are lying. There is no way to really grow your hair back. And if it was, I would have already found it. I found some things that were good, some things that were close. But do you know how long you have to use those things to actually see a small amount of gain? Okay, it's like forever. So I knew that these things were misdirecting or misleading people, and that is why I decided to make this video. So I took the plunge. I paid the $4,500. I scheduled my surgery about a month out and preparation for everything, and I just got the procedure done yesterday. And let's talk about a couple things. I want to make sure I give you everything I know. So you show up. You have to show up early. And if you don't know, there's two types of procedures. There's FUT and FUE. FUT is what a lot of people get. I couldn't do it. I didn't want to do it. All right, and that could also impact how much you pay. So if you find out that it costs more than $4,500 like I paid, that could be due to the area that you went to or that you're in, and it could also be due to the procedure. You went FUT or FUE. Now, I'll give you a little advice in terms of how to find the cheapest, best practicer or practitioner. For me, wherever you live, what everybody knows that one city within their state that's cheap. Everybody knows that. Go there. I would say look there first. That's your best bet, and figure it out from there. Okay. So that's what it was. FUT requires this really interesting procedure in which they cut off or cut out about a rectangle out of the back of your scalp, and they use that scalp or a piece of scalp or piece of skin, whatever you want to call it. It's a little rectangle strip. They use that to be the donor area for the missing spaces in your hair. Now, for me, I didn't like that because it sounds painful, number one, and number two, it leaves a scar there. Now, the scar, depending on who you ask, can be bad or not that bad. But I don't want a scar. That was the thing. I didn't want a scar. Like that's going to be there forever. Now, the good thing about that scar that some people might go ahead and say, I'll try FUT regardless of the scar, is if they have their hair, they wear their hair long. You can kind of get away with that scar if you wear your hair long, mainly women. But for me, I wore my hair short, so that just wasn't going to cut it. Whereas FUE, they'll typically take hair from the back of your head. Okay, so if let's see, if this is the back of your head, they'll use, like, it's the top of your head, it's the bottom, like where your neck kind of comes in. They'll use this area down, and they'll pluck hairs out of your scalp, and they'll use that as the donor area. Now, you might be wondering, if they do that, does those hairs grow back? They don't grow back, and that's the downside for FUE. So both sides have some downside. Here's the thing, though. Out of every 4 hairs on the back of your head for FUE, they'll pluck 1, leaving 3, which means when your hair grows back, you will not notice the difference. They use that as the donor area, and then they plug those hairs into other areas of your scalp that's missing hair. Okay, so that is how that went down. So I scheduled that, and you had to show up early. I was excited. I was ready for everything. The doctor explained to me that this was a 6 to 8 hours procedure. And for me, it was 8 hours. And when I say it's 8 hours, it's 8 hours for real. Okay, I got there at 8 o'clock. I didn't leave till 4 o'clock. That was a whole 8 hours. That includes their lunch. The people that's doing it, they needed lunch and all that kind of stuff. So what I did was I got smart about the situation. I said, you know what? I got 3 texts, because at the time I didn't know that the main doctor wouldn't really be doing any of the main work. But I said, I got 3 techs that will be working on my hair. So let me be smart about this. I brought the man Red Bulls, 5-hour energy drinks, and donuts. And when I walked into that building, they said, this is the first time any patient has ever brought us something. You know what I'm saying? So I was already starting off on the right foot. And the main female practitioner that was under the main guy, she took one of them Red Bulls, and boy, oh boy, it's like she took a hit. It's like she got really excited. And we got to chatting, got to knowing each other and all that, and it was just great to see her energy pick up, and I knew that was a good sign for me. It did die out as the procedure went on, but it was good to see that she was happy and she was ready to work. And let me tell you something. Over the course of this procedure, her energy went down and down and down and down because it is a very strenuous process. You have to be it's a very detail oriented process. Like it went from her telling me all her life and being joyful to like, it's like a marathon. It's like a marathon for them. So I'm so glad that I took that approach because it allowed her to start off on a good foot. Okay. Imagine having to write like a 20,000 word document in one sitting. That's what it felt like for her, or at least what I was able to kind of pick up on her energy. It just seemed like a lot of work for her. But anyway, I get into the chair and they start to ask me, hey, what do you want for lunch? So most places will also provide lunch for you because they know you're going to be there for a while. I took care of that, got in my chair, and it was finally time for the procedure. The main doctor comes in and he has like 8 syringes or 8 vials of anesthesia. And I'm like, man, are they going to use all of that? It's like, goodness gracious, it's it's over the top, ain't it? Anyway, so he sterilized, or rather, what's the word that you use? He numbed the following areas throughout the procedure. He numbed my forehead. I'm assuming for the front field of my head. He numbed just about every spot on the side of both sides of my head. He numbed the back very extensively. And by the time it was said and done, I would argue that I took about 30 needles to my scalp. Not the best. And, it felt like someone grabbing a piece of your skin and squeezing as hard as they could. So if you can handle that, I think you can handle these needles. But it's in the most sensitive spot ever. It's in your scalp, so it wasn't fun. And the part that even sucked more is that even after he had hit me with about 30 different needles, I still felt things throughout the procedure because it's such a long procedure. So by the time we got to like hour 7, I start to feel little pricks again. And I had to make a decision. Do I want to go ahead and ask them to numb me again? Or do I want to let this lady finish? Because I'm like, if I stop this entire procedure to allow them to numb me again, number one, she going to get irritated. She ain't going to say it. She ain't going to show it. But inside, because I'm human and she's human, she going to be like, I'm almost there. And now she got to stop. She was in a rhythm, After a while, she's just in a rhythm. She's starting to pluck the hairs, blah, blah. It's like, do I stop this rhythm for this little bit of pain that I know I can handle? Like on a scale from 1 to 10, this pain is about a 3. Like if it was a 7, yes, 6 maybe. But 3, let's just go ahead and rock through it. So I didn't bother her, and I got up out of there probably about an hour earlier. Maybe more like 30 minutes earlier, but I'll take that. So he numbs my entire scalp, and it was a 3-process thing, okay? The first thing was the extraction. So she started to pull healthy follicles, hair follicles, from the area that I told you. And I don't know what the second thing was. The doctor explained it to me, but it just like, I couldn't, I was like kind of just in my zen, and I forgot what he said. The extraction could be the second thing, maybe, but I forgot what he said. I know this though. And maybe this is what he probably said. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through your scalp and figure out all the areas where you want to add hair. Maybe that was the first step and the extraction was the second. Don't quote me on that. But nevertheless, we did have that conversation. I said I wanted hair here in the front, and I wanted hair here because this was the main issue. And I also wanted them to add hair to my temples because I'm starting to recede there. And she said, I don't think it's a good idea to add any hair there because you only have so many grafts available. So let's talk about grafts. When they do the FUE or FUT process, and maybe that's that hidden procedure that I'm forgetting, but when they do that grafting process, what they do is they take healthy hair follicles, at least with FUE, and I'll only be speaking about that because I didn't do FUT. But they take the healthy hair follicles, and they're only able to generate so many hair follicles. And it's based on several factors, like how healthy you are, how healthy your scalp is, how many hairs they might pull from a single hair follicle or space. Because sometimes when they pull a hair up, there's more than one hair there. I believe he said that there could be between 1 and 3 hair strands in one little pluck, right? So he outlined the areas that I wanted to add hair. Then the next step happened that I could recognize was the extraction point where they pulled all these different hair follicles. And then after that process was done, and that process took a very long time, I remember her stopping and me thinking like, okay, finally we're about to get to the main meat and potatoes where they're going to actually, start putting the hairs in. And it just hit me what the 3 steps were, but I'll tell you in a moment. I said, finally, we're going to get to the point of putting the hairs in. And it was like, no, we just finished the extraction. We just finished pulling all the hairs. I'm like, wait, so all that stuff I was feeling was just you pulling the hair out? Like, goodness gracious, how long is this going to be? So yeah, they pulled all the hair, and then afterwards the doctor showed me all the grafts. I believe the grafts are what we call the hair that they'll be taking out and putting back in different places. I think they call it grafts. Okay, so he said, sir, you were able to generate 1,800 grafts. Okay, initially when the procedure was starting, he told me it was going to be about 1,600, and I found out later that the optimum number of grafts for most surgeons is 2,000. So when he told me 1,600, I said, okay, well, all right. And this is why the lady said, we don't think you should do right here because you'll only have so many grafts, 1,600 to work with. That's at the time. She didn't really know. But when I found out I had 1,800, I said, that's a great number. And maybe it could, I'm not sure, but it could be the fact that before my procedure, I allowed my hair to grow out. Now, I don't wear my hair like this, but I decided to let it grow out because I felt like it'll help show the bald areas or the areas where I'm going bald via male pattern baldness better. And I think I was right, okay? Because at one point I suggested to one of the assistants if she can just go ahead and just cut all my hair off because I don't want to look crazy. But she said, you know what? It helps me. She's talking about her. It helps her to see the spaces that she needs to put hair in better. So she said, I don't think you should cut it off. And I said, all right, fine. I'll defer. But anyway, after they extracted and I was able to look at all these different hair follicles or grafts, okay, I realized I had 1,800, and they basically look like strands of hair. And at the bottom of the strands of hair are these little pieces of fat. It was a little gross, right? Because when you pull the hair out, you don't see the fat, okay? You just see the hair you pull out. But when it's a surgical process, you see the hair follicle and you see a little piece of fat at the bottom of it. It looks disgusting, by the way. And he's also able to show me at this point that some of these follicles have more than one strand of hair, which is a great thing. Okay, some of them had 3. I think 3 was the most that he showed me from one single hair unit being pulled out, right? And then came the second part. So extraction was first, and I didn't remember this at first, but the second part of the procedure was the poking of holes. So they extract the healthy hair follicles or grafts, and then they go in and they poke holes in all the areas that they'll be applying hair. That has to be the second part. This part was terrifying in thought because you think about it this way. They're going to be taking a needle and they're going to be basically pressing or putting or inputting 1,800 holes in your head. Now think about that and tell me you don't get a little nervous. So I thought that was what's going to happen. It sounded, I took it at face value. I said, oh, this is not a good sign. This is going to be terrifying. But my head was still extremely numb at the time. So when she's going through it with this needle or whatever she was using, and she's going crazy, by the way, she's going crazy. I'm like, yo, you might want to slow down. She is poking holes everywhere. And it did not hurt even the slightest of bits. Okay, there was no pain whatsoever. And I'll tell you, it's the weirdest thing because you hear her poking holes in your head, but you don't feel anything at all. Thank God for the person who created anesthesia or numbness or whatever. I just want to give them and their family an extra thank you. And Lord, may you bless them because they are changing the world. They have already changed the world. Okay, look. So the assistant is poking all these different holes, and it's the weirdest sound. I don't know if you've ever ate Captain Crunch, but imagine grabbing one of those little kernels of Captain Crunch and poking a needle through it over and over again until it just crumbles. But initially, when you're hearing that little crunch, that's what it sounds like. It's like this crunching sound throughout your scalp. And once that was over, then we finally got to the third part. So that was what it was. It was the extraction of hair. Then it was the poking of holes, and then finally to the emplacement of the hair follicles or grafts. So that's the 3-layered process. And after the holes were punched, I was pretty much done. Okay, I was like exhausted, and I remember asking the doctor. I said, "Hey, can I get my headphones? Can I get some? I need something to take my mind off just sitting here." It wasn't the pain. It wasn't any of that. It was just the boredom of just sitting still for 8 hours. I mean, sit in the chair for 8 hours. That's going to be tough by itself. Now, sit in the chair for 8 hours while somebody is poking on your head and pulling your hair, that's even worse, right? So that's kind of what it was. And luckily, I was able to use my headphones. I had some classical music. I was able to zone out a little bit. All right. And I ate lunch after that point. Had a nice little cheeseburger. I'm telling you, it's something about free food that it just tastes a little bit better. Now, mind you, I probably paid for it out of my $4,500, but I'm telling you, that burger was so delicious. It was like 2 huge patties on a sub bun. I said, what? I didn't even know they did that. So anyway, I come back into the place. The 2 assistants, they were finally a little bit more perkier because they just got through eating. And the main doctor came in and gave me another round of anesthesia or numbness. And that's when we kind of got ready to rock and roll. He did explain it to me. He said, hey, we have to make the holes. I'm going back a little bit. We have to make the holes so that we can put the hair inside of the holes. All right. And he said something to the effect of the holes that we're punching in your head are, I don't know what measurement he used. I want to say 2 millimeters. I don't know. They're tiny. Okay. They're very, very small incisions. In fact, they're so tiny that your assistant or the doctor will have to use microscopes or micro goggles, whatever you call them in medical practice, so that she could really zoom in on the scalp, because that's how small those holes had to be, and also how small the hairs are that have to go into these holes. So I'm sitting down, I'm ready to rock and roll, and the initial part, the extraction, took place with my face down. Okay, so I'm on my stomach while they're pulling in the healthy hair follicles, and then for the hole punching, I was able to turn and lay on my back. And for this final procedure where they're going to now put the hair follicles into my scalp, I was also on my back. And it turns out, I thought that the extraction was tough. I thought that the hole punching was tough. No, the toughest part, and I don't want to scare you here, and I'm not saying it to scare you. I want to make sure you're informed. This was the hardest part. And it was mainly because of how long it took. The doctor told me that it would take 2.5 hours to take these healthy hair follicles and put them into my scalp. It took more like 4.5 hours. At least it felt like it, because it was the least painful. So it gave you more time to just sit there and think about the operation. Like, at least the extraction, you're like so high off adrenaline because you're getting your hair done and you're getting it fixed and and you're excited about that, and the excitement kind of carries you through that part. Then you get in the hole punch part, or you get to the hole punch part, and the fear of having your head punctured and not feeling anything keeps you, alert and like listening to every crunch, but you don't feel anything, so it's fine. But by the time you get to the 3rd stage, all the fear and the jitters and excitement has pretty much subsided, and you're just there with your 2 assistants, and you're just there. All right, so this was the toughest part. Now, they had 2 assistances, and I'm assuming it's because one person was the main primary assistant. And I hate to call them assistances because they did the entire procedure. I'm going to just call them doctors for the rest of this video. So anyway, you had the head surgeon, but I'm going to call these ladies doctors because they went in there and they showed out. But anyway, the head doctor, she did the bigger jobs, whereas the secondary doctor, she seemed to either assist her or she did things on this side that weren't as strenuous. But I don't really recall ever feeling 2 separate things happening to my head necessarily. It could have been the numbness, but it felt like one thing was happening at one time. We finally get to the follicle insertion point, and I'm sitting there, I got my headphones in, and they are basically going through every hole punch and adding the hair follicles in, the hair and the fat. And I'm just sitting there and going along for the ride. I got my headphones in, and it's pretty peaceful. And I got to go ahead and just put it out there. By this point, I'm sweaty. I'm sweating all over the place. They sweating. The room doors closed. It's foggy and muggy all in the room. And it's like you feel like you become family with these 2 doctors. It's like, look, we in this together. And I tried my best. I didn't really move. I didn't shift a lot. I listened to everything they told me to do. And I just wanted to make their job easier. I would say by some point, the doctor made a little comment to the other doctor about her hands getting cramped up. This is like a war of attrition. It's a war of endurance. And this is why I'm so happy I provided some breakfast, some Dunkin' Donuts, and some stuff for the doctors, because it is a grueling and long process. It's not for the faint of heart. When you go into one of these situations, you look at the surgeon, you're like, all right, surgeon, all right, doc, come on, hook me up. But it's really the assistances, the doctors that work under the surgeon that's doing the heavy lifting, at least in my experience. Now, that could be different for every single person watching this video, but for me, that's what it was. And, you become like like friends with these people. Now, mind you, when I gave her the Red Bull, she told me her whole life story. I'm talking about everything. I knew she was from Jamaica. I knew that her husband was from Jamaica. I knew that she wanted to, it was a lot going on. I know she had a son that's now 15. Like, she told me everything. So by the time you get to the last stage, you feel like that's family. And not only that, they're helping you out. They're helping with your aesthetic. So you just get really close to them. And I wanted to make their work as easy as it was for me. Okay. Now, she did get a little upset with me because she had asked me at one point, do you feel this? I said, yeah, I feel something. And she said, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, look, I mean, I don't want to stop you from working. Like, you was kind of, in your zen. I don't want to stop you from. She's like, look, anytime you feel anything, let us know. She's very adamant about that. She said, if you don't let us know when you feel pain, it's going to make your day longer and my work harder. And that's when the main surgeon came back in and gave me a little bit more numbness. But, at the same time, I'm like, look, it is what it is. And towards the end of the procedure, again, I start to feel something again. But I'm like, I'm not stopping her. I'm not doing it because I want to get out this chair. I want to be done. And the pain is not that bad. So she started by adding the hairs up top. Then she finally started to add the hair in the main spot, which is right here. And she just started going and going and going. It just kept going. And it was just a long marathon. Finally, I knew she was done when she did the following. She started to remove the bandages from the site area where she was working. And I knew, I'm like, there's no way that she's removing those bandages if she's not actually done. Okay. But anyway, she's starting to remove bandages and I am so happy by this point. And I'm wearing this here. I didn't really say this, but I'm wearing this here because this is what they gave me. I came in with this like really loose fitting shirt, but it turns out because it would have to go over my head. They told me at the start of the procedure that I wouldn't be able to wear it. And that's why they put this on me instead. All right. Because you need to be able to pull it out and take it off without even interacting with your scalp whatsoever. So anyway, she starts to pull off the bandages and everybody's kind of like have this sigh of relief. She does beckon the main surgeon to come in to oversee the entire process and it is a success. All right. He starts to go out and go over all these different things that will happen, that needs to happen. And this is where I discuss what happens from here. Now that the procedure is successful and it is done, what happens now? He laid out all these different things that I can and cannot do. And number one was he told me to use this spray bottle here because this would allow me to keep the site, saturated. You don't want this area to get dry and get irritated because it's at that point that you could start to lose some of your hair follicles. He did explain to me that out of 100% of the hair follicles inputted, there is a strong chance that some of them may not survive. It's like, and he gave me this analogy. He said, if you were a gardener and you were throwing seeds out on soil, some of the seeds wouldn't materialize or turn into anything. And in my brain, I'm like, no, every hair follicle, 100% of these hair follicles will survive because I'm a praying man. I'm a man that lives by faith. And everyone's going to survive. All right. Everyone that needs to survive will especially do so. Anyway, he gave me this topical and he said to apply this to the donor area. That's the area that they pulled the hair from. He said it wasn't necessarily mandatory, but once I took the bandages off in about, he said, 2 days, I could start to add this topical to the site area to, I guess, help with the healing process. He did tell me to keep this on for 2 days, but I'm gonna try to keep it on as long as possible because they shaved the back of my head and I'm telling you, the doctor doesn't understand Black American culture. So he's like, hey, man, you can take it off in 2 days and just kind of walk around with the back of your head shaved off and, everything else not shaved. You'll be fine. I'm like, dog, do you know Black Americans? Do you know what they are? Do you know what they do? They obsess about stuff like this. I'm going to get talked about so bad. So I'm going to keep this bandage on as long as I could. Like, you mean to tell me you would rather wear a bandage on your head and actually have the back of it? Yeah, man, because in Black culture, like they are living for the day that they can find a guy walking around with the back of his hair shaved and the top not shaved, looking like Martin from that one episode. They are living for that moment. Every day they wake up, a Black American like, I hope I see a dude that's got his hair half shaved and he don't know this. I can't wait. And I'm like, I'm not going to be the first one. Okay. So I'm going to keep this thing on bandage on, doc. All right. You sure you want, I'm going to do it. There's no way I'm walking around with the back of my, imagine this. You're walking around, you see a guy with the back of his head completely bald and the rest of the hair on top. Now go tell that joke or tell any Black American you saw a man wearing that, they go like, oh, you found him? Like, no, I'm not about to be the one Black American unicorn with the back of his head shaved and the rest with an afro. Hell no, that's not going to be me. All right. So I said, look, I'm going to keep this damn bandage on as long as I can because it's just no way I'm about to be walking around and be the first person that Black Americans finally found. They done found Bigfoot. There you go. The back of his head shaved. He got an afro on the rest of it. Hell no, doc. So anyway, I said, no, all right, cool. I'm shaking my head, but I already know in the back of my mind it's not happening. But anyway, he said, here's what's going to happen. He said, your hair will, or I should say your scalp will take to the new entered follicles, and it will become a part of that particular site area within your scalp. And there is a strong chance that you will see some shedding, meaning those hair follicles will grow and then they'll die, and then they'll grow back down the line. It's kind of like if you were planting seeds, you might not see anything sprout from the soil for about a year. And in my case, according to him, what could happen is you could see some basis of flowers materialize, then those flowers could die, and then the next year or next season, that's when you would see the entire bed of roses or what have you. So I had to understand. I tried to make sure he understood that I understood where he was coming from. Hey, you will see some growth. It could die out. Don't start blowing my phone up because you're thinking that you got scammed. No, this is a part of the process. And then later on down the line, that's where everything will kind of materialize. I understood that. Now, the timelines that he gave me was, he said about 2 weeks is about how long you should wait to see anything whatsoever. And at the 4-week mark, that's probably where you'll start to see significant growth. At the 4-month mark, you should or possibly see some shedding. And he said it takes 14 months, a year and some change, in order to see the entire process come to fruition. That's what he told me. Okay. In terms of washing, he said for the initial week or two, you don't want to do any strenuous washing. He said after day 2, you can wash your hair with a cup of water by just running it through your scalp. But he said, wait at least 3 weeks before you do any strenuous washing. He also said, wait 3 weeks before doing any strenuous sweating, like going to the gym or anything of that caliber, because you want to give your scalp and those newly entered hair follicles the opportunity to integrate and become one. And if you do anything strenuous that could, shift that process, you could end up damaging your newly entered hair follicles. In terms of sleep, he said, you can sleep on the back of your back, which would theoretically impact your donor area, but your donor area is fine. It's the newly entered hair follicles that you want to protect. So as long as you're not sleeping, in a really weird position where the top of your head or the, top right or side right is being impacted by your pillow and things of that nature, you should be fine. My workaround around that has been this bad boy right here. So what I've been doing is I've been sleeping on my pillow, and thankfully I have the kind of bed that I can use a remote control for. So I was able to kind of elevate my body up using my remote control. What do you call it? Like a sleep number thing. So I was able to kind of sleep upright and sleep on my pillow, and then also use this pillow. So I'm actually sleeping on 2 pillows. Okay. I got the normal pillow, and I have the neck pillow on that's keeping me elevated on top of the pillow I already have, on top of the fact that my bed is sleeping at about a 35-degree angle, or it's been placed, mechanically to a 35-degree angle between 35 and 40 degrees to be exact. So that is how I've been able to get through the night. And I've only slept one night post procedure, and I thought that the sleep would be the hardest thing. Let me tell you something. I was wrong. All right. The reason I'm so springy for this video and this morning time where I'm from in my universe, the reason I'm so springy because I had so much of a great sleep. Okay. All right. Imagine being in like one of those reclining chairs, or, one of those comfortable reclining chairs where you can kind of like have the back of the chair about like right here at a nice little slope. And then you got a nice fluffy memory foam pillow that I got from Amazon on my back in the lower parts of my neck. And then you got this bad boy right here acting as an extra cushion. Man, I slept so good. Oh my gosh, I slept so good. So yeah, sleep is going to be cool. Never touched the top of my head, so I'm good there. And I mean, as far as the donor area, everything's pretty solid. Now, in terms of maintenance, I had to use ChatGPT because I'm telling you, Chat GPT knows everything about everything about everything about everything. So there were some things that I brought to my surgeon's attention that he didn't even seem to react to because I don't think he really knew. I said, hey, so in terms of keeping the site, saturated or moist, is there anything I can use? And again, he gave me this spray bottle. Now I was a little apprehensive because I said I don't want to spray the hair follicles because this is, a lot more, it's more pressured, more intense, if you will. But not really. I was over exaggerating just a tad bit. It only gives out a nice soft mist, okay? And that does not move your hair follicles because earlier in the procedure, he was telling me not to like touch them or anything like that because he said they're pretty delicate. They're not. They have. It's kind of like you just plant a plant in your garden. You don't want to go around and kick it, obviously, or do anything that's abrasive because the roots haven't spread out yet. So I was a little nervous about this, but this is fine. But according to ChatGPT, there's something that you can use to sterilize your scalp. Because obviously you can't use a shower head. And even the doctor seemed to agree with at least that point. He said, if you're going to take a shower, you're going to take a shower from here down. All right. And basically, you don't want that shower head to hit up here because you can't control that water stream. And I said, wow, okay, that's going to be interesting. How do I shower that way? And also, as far as washing my scalp, he said, what did he say? I think he said after day 3. You can go ahead and start to wash your scalp, but you're not going to do any pressurizing motions. You're going to basically just let the water groove through your hair naturally, and you should be fine. But I don't want to touch this at all. You know what I mean? So it's like I got to figure out what I'm going to do there. One of my solutions was using NeilMed wound wash. All right. And this is something that my doctor had, or the surgeon had no idea of, but ChatGPT swears by it. And I tried asking Chat in several different ways, and every single time it provided this as a possibility. And it wasn't just this; it was just a saline spray of any sort. They do have saline spray for your nose, so that's what I initially bought, and that was wrong. So I had to go back and get the one for your wound. And I said, why would a doctor use this? Well, it's to keep a wound sterilized and clean without having to touch it or anything like that. It turns out it's a really awesome thing you can use for your scalp. Now, I thought that when I bought this and I would spray it, it would come out kind of like this mist. Turns out this stream is way more abrasive than I like. So one thing that I had to make sure I made an adjustment with is when I spray my scalp, I had to be at least as far as I possibly could as I sprayed and allowed some of those driplets to land in the right areas. But doing this right here is a terrible mistake that you can make, and I'm almost certain that it would just basically blow your newly inserted grafts out of place. So I've been doing it from afar, and then I'll chase it with the mist right here, and that's pretty much what I've been doing to keep my site nice and saturated and and moist and things of that nature. And how often do I use this? I've been using this about every 3 hours. And that's been pretty good for me. I went and I bought myself an umbrella because obviously you can't control Mother Earth. So if it ever rains, I'll have this to protect my hair. In terms of, and by the way, this is the initial NeilMed that I bought. I didn't know this was for sinus allergy. I had no idea. But turns out people use this to clear out their nasal passages if they're like stuffed up. I mean, I think this might be a better better to use than maybe Mucinex, or they're equal. I can't tell you. I'll use that at some point, I'm sure, though. What else? I got some of these bad boys right here. These are pillow protectors, and really, I didn't get them. I was provided these by my surgeon. And oh my gosh, my favorite thing, I'm gonna show you next. My favorite thing I'm gonna show you after this. All right, this is not my favorite thing, but this is pretty cool right here. I'm a big sweater, okay? I'm a huge sweater. And this is why I can't go to the gym. I can't do certain things because if I sweat, and this is a big part of what the doctor kept saying over and over again. He said, don't do anything that requires you to sweat because sweating happens from your scalp. So if you have these newly implanted hair follicles and then you start to sweat, all bad news, all bad news. And I know me, I know I sweat easily. So I bought me a mobile handheld fan that I can use should I start to feel my body temperature start to increase. And I can use this to kind of bring my body temperature down, therefore eliminating the possibility of sweating. But my favorite thing, oh my gosh, okay, look, let me tell you something. So when the doctor and the doctor assistant, I'm just calling them both doctor assistants, whatever. When both doctors were done working on my scalp, it was a very Terrible feeling, okay? How do you feel after your newly implanted hair follicles are inputted into your scalp? How do you feel? You feel like pinhead, okay? You feel like you have so much going on in your scalp. I mean, at one point, I felt like I was going to go into shock. And this is not a new phenomenon. In fact, every time I had to go to the bathroom, it was weird and strange because the female doctor, the doctor lady who was doing most of the work, she would have to stand outside the door. And she didn't want me to lock the door at all because apparently it was common or possible that you can faint. You know, you got all this blood running from your scalp. You got all these punctures. Like, some people wig out and just faint. So she wanted to keep the door ajar. And she said, look, I'm not trying to invade your privacy. But I'm like, baby girl, you can come in here if you want. Anyway, I don't want to invade your privacy because, you know, I got to protect you, make sure you don't fall out or faint. I told her, and I felt this inside, like, hey, I'm good. I mean, I see what's going on. I feel what's going on, but I'm good. I'll let you know. But nevertheless, that was a thing, all right? Look, getting done with this, I felt like so much trauma to my scalp. It was so much trauma. I felt stuff here. I felt pressure here, and it was all painful. It was all painful, especially once that numbness starts to wear down, man. And I was wondering to myself, what can I use? What can I use? Well, thankfully, I had some really awesome, you know, surgeons, doctors, and also my good friend ChatGPT. This is all you need right here. Some Tylenol. You know, Tylenol is everything you need in terms of pain. You can't use pretty much anything else from what I was told. Not Advil, not this, not that, because all of those different things, they intermingle with your blood system and could potentially endanger your site area. Okay, whether you do it before or after. So I was told not to use anything because for whatever reason, all these different medications, they can create reactions to your scalp that will be bad news. Apparently though, Tylenol, extra strength pain relief, is the perfect thing that you can use. And this sounds like a commercial by this point. Tylenol is the best thing you can use. It won't impact your surgical area, whether it be before, during, or after, whatsoever. Use Tylenol, people. Thank you. That's what it sounds like. But no, seriously, this was thank God for the people. Nevertheless, one thing that I will say that really saved this entire procedure and made it go as smooth as it did is I took 2 of these 30 minutes before the operation. Okay. And when the initial numbness was taking place, where the doctor was kind of hitting me with the needle, he was kind of surprised I wasn't reacting as much. I felt it, and yes, it did hurt. But I think that I dumbed my pain sensors down enough where the punctures from the numbness needle didn't really impact me that much. And I think it was this right here. I took 2 of these. Now, in terms of the directions, it says to take 2 and not to exceed that every 6 hours. So I would take 2 at 8 o'clock, and I had already set my alarm to take 2 more at 1 o'clock. So every 6 hours, I was popping 2 of these bad boys right here, and that was pretty much that. Helped tremendously. So when the procedure was done, I took 2 of these because I had set my alarm clock for 1, but again, I wasn't about to stop her from, you know, doing her work. She was already in rhythm. So my alarm went off, I pressed the button and let her keep working. But when it was done around 4 o'clock, I popped 2 of these because my head was just like beating, you know? And by the time I got home, I kid you not, by the time I got home, I didn't feel anything. And I just said, thank you, Jesus Christ, because this really fixed it, man. And then I set my alarm 4 hours from that point. I'm sorry, 6 hours, my mistake. I set my alarm 6 hours after that point, after the procedure was over around 4, which meant I took two more of these around 10 o'clock. And that carried me through the night into this moment in which I'm talking to you right now. I haven't taken another 2 since that one I took last night at 10. I'm telling you, and I'm at a standpoint where I'm not even sure I need any more because I don't feel anything at all. I don't know if the Tylenol is still working or if the pain has subsided enough where I don't need Tylenol anymore. Nevertheless, it's right here on standby should I need it, because I'm a big advocate for not using stuff like this unless you absolutely need it. Like if my pain sensors are at a 2 out of 10, I'm not taking Tylenol. The only time I might take this again if it raises to like a 4 or higher. But right now the pain is at a 1. I feel something, but it's not painful. All right, and if I'm being transparent with you, I might take 2 more of these and then I'll try to wean myself off and not take them ever again unless I absolutely need it, which I don't think so because I don't feel anything right now. I feel absolutely great right now. All right, so that is pretty much all that I can think to tell you. I want to talk about one more thing that I'm just not happy about. These are all the things that, you know, I can't do. And I want to make sure I share this with you because I think it'll be very helpful for you. In fact, I also want to share the 10 things that you can do to ensure that your hair follicles survive. So I have 2 lists here that I'll read from. Top 10 ways to ensure your grafts live. Number 1, follow your surgeon's post-op instructions exactly. Number 2, don't touch, rub, or scratch the grafts. Number 3, sleep elevated for first 3 to 5 days. Number 4, use saline spray or gentle wash if advised. Number 5, avoid sweating, gym, and sunlight. Okay, that's a new one. That's a new one for me. I didn't really read the sunlight part, so we'll use this if we need to. I didn't know sunlight was a problem. I'm glad I read this to you all. Number 6, don't apply any products early. No minoxidil, no shampoo. Don't do any of that stuff, all right? Too early. And matter of fact, let me read the whole passage here because I need to hear this myself, and I think you need to hear it too. Just in case you don't understand what's going on here, I did do some research on how to ensure that my grafts lived forever. And 2 things happened. Number 1, you had to be able to stop DHT. DHT is what's causing the male pattern baldness in the first place. So I knew I had to find a way to stop DHT. But here's the problem. When it comes to stopping DHT, a lot of the supplements that are in pill form to be taken, they impact, and I mean negatively, your sexual libido. I said, it's just no way on planet Earth I'm going to take a pill that's going to make my sexual prowess lessen. I'm not doing it. I don't care if I'm bald headed on three-fourths parts of my head. I'm not getting a procedure that's going to require me to take a medication that's going to impact me sexually. It's just not going to happen. In fact, a lot of people don't get hair transplants for that very reason, because they realize that the doctor is going to probably prescribe them something that's going to negatively impact their sexual libido. And that's a terrible situation. Like, hey, you got a full head of hair now, but now you can't perform. Like, who wants that trade-off? Nobody. So for me, I started doing research on how to stop DHT without using the supplements. And that's what it showed me. It showed me that, oh, I didn't even talk about this. I think I should stop this list for a minute and talk about this because I think it's important. If you don't address the DHT, you're pretty much setting yourself up for failure, because eventually that DHT that initially caused the hair pattern baldness or the male pattern baldness to even happen in the first place, that's not going anywhere. That's going to be there forever. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Okay, because eventually, I'll give it between 3 and 5 years, you're going to probably be balding once again. Your hair's going to fall out again. So there were 2 things that I found that impact or push or destroy or hinder DHT from destroying your hair follicles. The first one was minoxidil. Okay, now you might be asking yourself, why not just use minoxidil without getting the hair transplant? That's because minoxidil only works as long as you use it. So if you stop using minoxidil, it won't help you past the fact that you're past the point that you stop using it. In fact, I tried to use minoxidil once I started to hear or feel or see that my hair was starting to bald in certain areas. I said, hey, an easy fix for this would be minoxidil. And here's the problem. I didn't see any results after using it for about a month, because turns out if your hair is already bald, you can't use minoxidil and have your hair grow back in a month. We're talking about using minoxidil for like 8 months straight, every single day. And I said, look, I'm not doing that. Or I don't have the discipline to not see any results for 8 months. So minoxidil is not the end-all be-all cure that a lot of people want it to be, because you won't see any results for a long time. 8 months might be being generous. It might take a year before you see anything from using minoxidil. And I'm just not going to do that. All right. But if you get the procedure, minoxidil is perfect now, because, hey, you already got the procedure done, and the minoxidil will help with the regenerative process. It's already going to take me 14 months to see anything, or I should say, see the full product. So why not use minoxidil alongside that 14 months? It sounds like a great idea, right? And it is. But to use minoxidil on its own and thinking that it's going to revive dead hair follicles, okay, To think that's going to happen is a well wish. It's not likely. So that was the first thing. I wanted to get something that would help with hair regeneration. So I went and I got Kirkland's minoxidil. Okay, that's a very popular one. It's very cheap and you get a lot for your money. So I have that on standby. I can't use it right now because it's too early and it wouldn't be good for my new grafts. So at about let me see, it tells me when to do it. At about day 14, I will probably begin the process of using minoxidil, which will help the hair follicles grow at a more expedited rate. Now, minoxidil by itself is not enough because yes, minoxidil will fight DHT and allow your hair to grow, but we need something that focuses mainly on DHT. Minoxidil doesn't focus on DHT. Minoxidil focuses on hair growth. I need something that focuses on DHT. All right, and that's a shampoo called Nizoral. N-I-Z. Let me get the right spelling for you. I know I wrote it in my notes, and if I didn't, I did say it correctly. So if you just Google Nizoral, I think it's Nizoral. All right, Nizoral. I don't see it in my notes immediately, but that's okay. It is called Nizoral. Nizoral. Now that is the DHT stopper that doesn't impact your sexual libido. Okay. Now you're excited. Now, some people watch this video and they left too early, but boy, are they going to be in for a rude awakening when they get their hair transplant and they get them pills in their hand. And when they take those pills, they're going to be an even more of a shocker because they're going to realize, oh, snap, I didn't know it was this bad. But no, the minoxidil is going to help with hair growth and the Nizoral is going to help fight DHT. I'm in it to win it, baby. I'm in it to win it because I'm going to be stopping or fighting the thing that actually causes male pattern baldness, while at the same time, you know, inspiring new hair growth through the minoxidil. Can't lose, baby. Can't lose. That's what it is, man. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy with those results. All right. Back to what I was saying. Avoid sweating, Jim. We already talked about that one. Number 6, don't apply any products early on. All right, here it is. No minoxidil, no shampoo, at least for 10 to 14 days. Number 7, avoid alcohol, smoking, and nicotine. I just quit all forms of smoking. That means hookah and everything else. I'm not smoking for the rest of my life. It's just not good. It's not good for your health. It's not good for your hair. In terms of alcohol, I already told myself I'm going basically the next 6 months without even taking a sip of champagne. All right. So there's no alcohol coming nowhere near my body, at least until my birthday. So no alcohol, no smoking, no nicotine. Number 8. This is the one I hated. And I didn't even know this was a thing, but turns out you cannot, well, I'm just going to read it. Eat well and stay hydrated. I was like, okay, cool. Eat well and stay hydrated. That sounds good enough. No, that's not it. Okay. Healing equals protein, vitamins. So that means stay away from inflammatory junk food and sugar for the first 2 weeks. You can't eat sugary foods, dude. And that's the one that really hurts me. Because I'm going to tell you, this is exactly what happened. I kid you not, and I'm not exaggerating. But the first thing I did when I came home, I went to my candy drawer. I had a Milky Way, I had Twix, I had Reese Cups, and some Skittles. I grabbed them all like this, and I ran upstairs. And I said, I put them on my nightstand, and I grabbed my phone. I'm like, okay, I'm about to go ahead and elevate my back and just chill. And I'm about to just read all the different things I need to stay away from. The list I'm reading to you, I'm like, let me read this now. Okay, now it applies. And when I got to number 8, and it said, eat well and stay hydrated. Stay away from inflammatory junk food and sugar for the first 2 weeks. I said, why did nobody tell me? That's crazy. So I had to put all my junk food in my drawer and just close the drawer. And I had to call my wife like, yo, can you grab some fruit, some grapes, some apples and all that? Because you can't really eat junk food because it's inflammatory. Who knew that? Nobody told me. So that sucks. I'm not happy about that. I might have to sneak a Reese Cup. I don't care. It is what it is. Anyway, number 9, protect the area from trauma. So don't wear hats. You can't wear hoodies. You can't wear anything tight fitting around your head. And of course, you can't bump your head. Number 10, be patient with shedding. I'm going to read this entire thing. Around weeks 2 to 4, the transplanted hairs may fall out. This is normal and temporary. The follicles remain alive beneath the surface and start regrowth around 3 to 4 months post-op. There you go. There's a lot of the different things that you probably had questions about right there. Okay. Here are some things that you want to avoid. I think these are self-explanatory because, I mean, if you just do the things that I told you to do, you're in theory avoiding things you shouldn't do. But here are some mistakes: rubbing or picking the scabs. So don't pick the scabs. Using minoxidil or Nizoral. Sounds like I spelled it right. Here it is, Nizoral. Using minoxidil or Nizoral too early. Okay. And I'm going to go back because I want to make sure I'm not doing so. In fact, I already know. I wrote notes about this. I'll figure it out in just a second. What else are some mistakes? Wearing hats or helmets, exercising too soon, ignoring post-op redness or infection. Now, the doctor did tell me that I wouldn't have to worry about infection, so that's good. And plus, beknownst to him, I am using NeilMed to help with keeping the area sterile. So that's one thing here. Okay, in terms of a timeline, I think this is important as well. Okay, here's a timeline, what you can do. Here we go. From days 0 to 7, you need to protect the grafts, no touching, sleep elevated, no sweat or sun. From days 8 to 14, gentle wash, scab removal, no harsh products. Weeks 3 to 4, consider light activity, maybe gentle shampoo, no actives yet. I'm not sure what actives mean. What does that mean? Actives. I don't know if that means like activities or really strong shampoos, but it says no actives yet. All right. Week 4 and beyond, we're talking about after a month, minoxidil, Nizoral, and watch for growth cycles. Okay. So you can start to use Nizoral and minoxidil after about a month, according to my notes. All right. Okay, now that I have that, I'm good. Now, in terms of the grafts, I do want to talk about, I didn't know this video was going to be so extensive, but I'm very happy that it is, because this is basically the one-stop video that tells you everything you can possibly think of from somebody who just went through it, okay? All right, you can hear it from a doctor who's never went through the procedure, but even this video could be more impactful than that because I actually went through it, and I'm speaking from a person who's actually done it, in conjunction with the things that that doctor might tell you anyway. Because I saw a video, I was doing research on this before, and the doctor was giving you all these different facts, but he had never gone through it. And guess why he didn't want to go through this procedure? Because he knew that the medications that you would take afterwards could impact the sexual libido. And that's when I said, you know what, I'm not getting it. Until I did further research and I found out you can use Nizoral, you can use minoxidil, right, without using the supplements. So, you know, there you go. But anyway, here we go. From days 0 to 10, the grafts are most likely. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to turn it this way. Let me turn it this way. Here we go. From days 0 to 10, grafts are most vulnerable. Scabs form, and your skin is healing. Okay. From days 11 to 21, your grafts are anchored. Okay, that's good for me to know. So around day 11, that's when your grafts are really strong. They're anchored now. They're part of your actual scalp. That's a long time. I got to really be ready for this little journey here, 11 days. Your grafts are anchored. Shedding may begin. Scabs should be mostly gone. Something about scabs. I keep hearing about scabs. Like, what is that? I have to chat GPT that. Like, how do I, like, is scabs bad? Do I avoid the scabs? Is it going to be like red? Like, what is scabs? Is it already happening? I don't know. All right. From weeks 4 to 5, healing is mostly complete. Redness may linger. Okay. And then from weeks 4 to 6, you can start your minoxidil. So I had already, did my research on when I can start using minoxidil and Nizoral. And it turns out it's at week 4 and beyond. All right. I believe that there's only one more thing that I need to bring to your attention before I conclude. All right. Here is a tailored schedule on when I can jump back into things, because I did research on this last night. I said, I want to go back to the gym. I want to go back to doing this. I want to go back to doing that. And here are my actual results. And I felt like, oh my gosh, did I just do that? Oh my gosh, I just erased all of my chat GPT data. But the good news is I backed it up. So I actually copied everything I was told and put it inside my notes. And thankfully I did. Otherwise, this video would be over. Okay. According to Chat GPT, I can return back to the gym after 4 weeks. I can wash my hair just pouring, by the way, just pouring water, not any agitated motions yet after 7 days. I can wash my hair normally after 14 days. I can sleep normally because I was a little concerned about having to sleep elevated. But according to ChatGPT, I can sleep normally, rolling around like I love to do on both sides, face down to the side, hand under the pillow, all that, after 7 days. I'm going to skip this little detail right here because I don't think that's appropriate for all audiences. So I'm going to skip that one right there. All right, as far as eating junk food, there is no clinical restriction, but minimized sugar helps healing. That said, it's safe immediately unless your doctor advises otherwise. All right, I can eat sugar. That's the first thing I'm doing. All right, but it does cause inflammation, and apparently inflammation does hinder the healing process. So I'm not gonna go crazy. I ain't gonna go crazy. I ain't gonna go crazy, everybody. All right, when should I stop using NeilMed saline spray? Used for the first 7 days. Interesting. I thought it was 14. Okay, when can I start to apply coconut oil? I love using coconut oil on my skin and my scalp for my own personal reasons. I can do that after 4 weeks. When can I get my hair cut? Goodness gracious, when can I get my hair cut? I'm gonna read this whole thing because this is one I want the most. Okay, after 2 weeks, but avoid the recipient area. What's the point? You can get your hair cut after 2 weeks, but avoid the recipient area. You can trim the donor area carefully. What? I gotta go back and ask a follow-up question. Like, when can I cut my entire hair, man? It's probably gonna be after 4 weeks, like everything else is. So that means I'm gonna have my hair looking like this like 4 weeks, bro. That's the downside. Like, you wanna know what the pros and the cons are? That's the freaking con right there. Your hair looking nuts, bro. Goodness gracious. Okay, when can I stop carrying an umbrella after the first 7 days? All right, that's it, man. That's it. I feel like I've answered every possible question. If there's anything that I missed, you know my comment section is open. I reply to every positive comment and I block every negative one. So hit me up, and anything that you want to ask, I am here to help you. I will help you as much as I can. I am a resource to you, all right, because you're helping me by liking the video. You're helping me by commenting, and you're helping get this video to a much broader audience. I appreciate your help, and I thank you all for sticking with me this long. I did not anticipate this to happen, but don't forget to check out the Rick the Don podcast. And if you really enjoy what I said here, throw me a 5-star review over there to help grow my podcast because it's not growing. All right, but with that being said, stay blessed, and I'll see you soon. Peace.